Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about some professional wrestling. I haven't really done a video on wrestling in a bit, but I want to talk about how I think why I think AEW is so important to the professional wrestling scene. You know, for quite a while now, decades, you could say it's shoot, been over 3 decades since WWE became all God Emperor of the land, really being the only true wrestling organization out there. Yes, there were others. New Japan Pro, but the ability to watch it was slim to none. Ring of Honor, again, it had some great talents to it, but it was a wrestling organization that you couldn't really find unless you were kind of lucky and got the channel it was on. TNA, then Impact, now it's TNA again. Again, it's one of those, it was a little more affordable to find than Ring of Honor, but again, you have to be lucky and have the channel that it comes on. You didn't always have this immediacy of some of these other organizations. You know, YouTube is what? Almost 20 years. But even when you consider that, it still took a while for the other wrestling organizations to go, we could put a channel on it. And a lot of what we had to see and watch were left up to fans. They had to have captured footage in some way and put it out there for others to watch. And there were some movie show providers who sometimes would have compilations they would provide. But for the most part, it was WWE. That was, I know myself, that's all I had I could watch. When it was WCW versus WWE, at least, I could watch WCW or WWE or both. AEW, whether some people like it or not, because the reason I'm making this video, a lot of people seem to enjoy going out and bashing AEW. And don't get me wrong, there are some things Tony Khan has majorly screwed up on, but there's other things that are being unfairly bashed. But with AEW, it's brought back in a bigger fan base than there had been. I know myself, I hadn't really sat down and watched wrestling, and it had been over a decade. I enjoy watching AEW. It's good. It's also opened the door that other wrestling organizations have a lot more attention. You know, the fan base is able to watch so much more now, especially with sites like YouTube and everything else. We're in a revolutionary age for wrestling, and a lot of it was started with AEW's invention. So, whether you like them or not, they are responsible for a lot of good things, opening up the wrestling world for so many more. Now, they've also done something wonderful. The Forbidden Door. There had been crossover shows in the past. I know WCW did one with, I think it was New Japan. But they're a rarity. An extreme rarity. AEW, probably the best thing, is kicking that door open. So you have wrestlers from other wrestling organizations showing up here and there and here and there. That is something we never would have got to see. The last time something like that happened was the days of the NWA, when it was at its strength. Because the NWA would have NWA East, Southwest, NWA Great Lakes, NWA this, that, because they all had their own belts and stuff. But because they were technically under one organization, they could show up at other shows with the belts and stuff. Because technically they were all NWA, but they all ran in their own territories. That disappeared when the NWA started being pulled apart, which sees the birth of groups like WCW was an old NWA was an old NWA territory. ECW was an old NWA territory. TNA was a former NWA territory. So, I mean, a lot of these old territories ended up being pried and pulled away and becoming something on their own. And eventually the NWA just shrank down to a single organization. And that's what you have now. But, yeah. But it also signaled the birth of a nationwide wrestling organizations, but also the death of the territories and a more varied wrestling experience. Because then all you have is, your WCW's WWE, WWF back in. Um, there was still the AWA. Was it MWA? I'm not sure, but I think it was the MWA. It might. I'm not sure on that one, but there's also others. They were still regional to a point. Smoky Mountain Wrestling. It was headed by Jim Cornette. That had some great stars. It was pretty good. Focused really around Knoxville and that border area between Tennessee and North Carolina. But yeah. Um, you also had Glow. Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. Back in the day. And yeah, there were international wrestling organizations. You know, New Japan Pro Wrestling, All Japan Pro Wrestling. Um, yeah. It, it was interesting. You know, before WCW started bringing in the luchadors and everything, that style wrestling was not really well known. So most of your wrestling was still mat wrestling, grapples, holds, or just thumps. There were some people who used the ropes, but it wasn't a lot of your twists and tumbles and all that. It was elbows and leg drops and splash and, all this. So again, back to AEW. AEW has taken advantage of this, and like I've said, it opened that forbidden door. We're able to see wrestlers from all over, from other places. If that's one thing AEW did right, it was open that forbidden door, because it wasn't happening under WWE. Also, AEW brings in a lot of talent. Oftentimes, you could say too much talent. Almost an embarrassment of riches. But Khan has no problem bringing in talent and showing them off for the rest of the world to see. So many of these wrestlers would have never gotten an opportunity elsewhere. And it's helped push so many other wrestlers into the spotlight. Brian Pillman Jr. I doubt WWE would have even considered signing him to NXT regardless if WWE or if AEW hadn't already had him on some shows, Dark Elevation. So he got some experience in front of a bigger audience. Honestly, there's a number of people who would never have been given a chance elsewise. Jade Cargill probably would have never been looked at as a potential wrestler. But after her run on AEW, WWE signed her, picked her right up. So, yeah. Again, whether you like AEW, Tony Khan or not, they have done some things to make wrestling better. Now, that's not to say he hasn't done some stupid shit. He has. There are things he can be, I guess, I hate to use the word attack, but bashed over. Again, the embarrassment of riches. He had so many wrestlers, it almost felt as if he couldn't show them off as much as they deserved to be. And we've seen many wrestlers disappear. Some have quit. Some have been fired. Yeah. The whole CM Punk incident, debacle. But you think WWE would have even looked at re-signing him if he hadn't showed up in AEW and started help pushing, getting back into it? I don't think that would have happened. I really don't. Jungle Boy. Part of the conflict between CM Punk and AEW was because him and Jungle Boy got into a bit of a fight. CM Punk and Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy's apparently, I don't know if it's real or not, but I think it's real. He's quit AEW and went to work in New Japan. Strong, I think. I don't think it's the bigger New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think it's Strong. But yeah. It's crazy. Andrade El Idolo, I think he's left AEW supposedly, wanting to go back to WWE. This is what I keep hearing. But, I mean, to be fair, his wife is over there. It would make a lot more sense. So, yeah. And perhaps he feels he could do better. I think I don't think they're actual brothers. They were just stable mates in Mexico. Andrade and Dragon Lee. But yeah. Even the negativities have opened the door, like I just talked about. CM Punk, Jungle Boy, Andrade. And to be honest, there probably should be a few more go. I noticed there have slowly been a trickle of releases, Sunny Kiss and a number of others, VGK. A lot of the people on Dark Elevation, and you are seeing some cream rise to the top of AEW. I mean, you have people like MJF, Orange Cassidy. Um, yeah. Honestly, I never thought much of Jungle Boy, so I don't. Yeah. Um, Darby Allin, he's alright. Again, Sammy Guevara, it's alright. MJF is a key talent, though. And he's shown that over and over. Orange Cassidy has shown his value more than some of the others that were listed as the pillars. But yeah, um, I think there's a lot of hate tossed towards AEW. And again, there's things they can be attacked for. They can be pushed back upon for. But they allowed interfederation wrestling. They have, really opened that door. They've given the opportunity to so many wrestlers to at least give them a peek, let them be seen. They've done a lot of things really well, and it's things that needed to happen that never would have happened under a WWE. Because whether you want to admit it or not, WWE's just, it's the old guys stuck in their ways. This is the way I've always done it, and it's always worked. It's because over the last 20 years, you didn't have any competition. Yeah, there were other organizations, but they posed you no rivalries. AEW, on the other hand, it has backing, it has money, it has the capability. So, for me, I see AEW as a good. It's just something I wanted to talk about because I feel there's just a willingness for some people, they almost take joy out of passing hatred over AEW. And yeah, that's just not the way it should be. I'm not saying you have to love AEW, you have to go cheer it, but being an asshole doesn't help with anything. Just some thoughts. Anyway, as always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.